Welcome back, my friends, to a video I've been wanting to do for a while. What you are seeing on the screen right now is the original. This is the web version of Rogue. When you hear someone say Roguelike or Roguelite, they're talking about this game. And no, this video is not going to be me playing it. What I really want to get to in this video is the difference between the two categories, Roguelike and Roguelite. But more importantly, what I want to talk about is why we chose to name an entire genre of games after this, instead of calling it what it really should be called. Now, I know I am incredibly late to the genre, but I did not get into it until God of War Ragnarok Valhalla came out. And being a huge God of War fan, I got into it immediately and thought, what an amazing concept, as you could go through the game sort of over and over again, and it also told an overarching story, which ultimately makes it a roguelite, not a roguelike, but I'll get to that in a moment. Now, my kid, who has basically threatened to disown me because of this video I'm making right now, told me that there are a lot of games like this with this concept, and we started playing a bunch of them. And as I complained about the name, he also told me at first, well, it's a subgenre, but let's cover that right now. It has its own thing in epic roguelite games. And even if you look at descriptions of games in the site that shall not be named, notice they have roguelite and roguelike in the description as part of the genre. And while it may have started as a subgenre of dungeon crawlers, because that's what Rogue was, it has now changed into anything but. As you can see, Shotgun King, which is considered roguelike, is one that involves chess and the Black King running around with a shotgun shooting off the other pieces. And games like Balatro, which are essentially teaching you poker, but with funky little jokers that can improve your hands along the way, and lots of little fun things you can do. Again, this one's a little more rogue-like. So since we're talking about that, let me get into the distinction. In the original Rogue, you started every game essentially fresh. You didn't have any improvements that carried over from your previous run. You had to start each run and then encounter whatever random things you would be encountering and get whatever upgrades you would get along the way. In games like Valhalla, Hades 2, and many more like it, you can make meta changes to your build as you go along. This will make the runs easier as you go, as you'll get more health, more rage, better weapons, stuff like that, depending on the particular game. And the way the roguelite games are designed, essentially you need those meta upgrades in order to beat the game. Otherwise, you're simply not going to be strong enough to ever make it through a full run. Whereas in roguelike games, you can often finish an entire run without ever getting anything more than the game gives you at the beginning. For example, in Peglin, there was no additional outside of the particular run things that I needed in order to do this. This was all just doing multi-ball and the chip that allowed me to get these ridiculous scores. But let's go to a blackboard and break it down. So let's compare what roguelike and roguelite have in common. They both have randomly generated adventures. You never know what's coming next, so to speak. They both have random upgrades that happen throughout your run that you then put together to make into your build, whatever that build is going to be based on the random upgrades that you're getting. Now, in roguelike games, if you lose, you start over again with no new upgrades. You're starting from scratch. In roguelite games, you're likely going to be able to make some changes to your character, increase their health, get a better weapon, do something that will make the next attempt easier or even possible. And depending upon the game, it may advance the story in some way, but that's not universal across the entire genre. And finally, something they have in common is you win. You finish whatever goal you set out to complete. Now, personally, I think it's completely ridiculous that we have to have two kind of separate genres like this, roguelike and roguelite, when the only difference is whether there's meta upgrades or not. They're really just both rogue games. But then, and this went on for a long time, whenever my kid told me he wanted a new roguelike or roguelite game, I didn't know what he was talking about. I thought he was talking about some game where he was going to play a thief who was going to try to steal something. That made sense with the concept of a rogue game. Then I ultimately find out that it dates back to this game from 1980 that has really nothing to do with something like Balatro or Peglin or Valhalla or any of these other games that follow the same concepts. So what I want to propose right now is that we stop calling them rogue anything games and instead come up with a name that properly reflects what the game is, like RPGs or role-playing games, FPS, first-person shooters, MOBAs, multiplayer online battle arenas, auto battlers, TFT. You know what it is when you hear what the letters are or what the game is. So let's wipe the blackboard and come up with a new name based on what these games have in common. Now, I think we can agree one of the aspects of this game that's most important is that they are random. And another thing all of these games have in common, that along the way, you're going to be getting upgrades that allow you to create your builds. And at this point, I thought I had it, because in the game, you go on what are called runs. And I just had to find a word that began with the letter N that would make sense. It would be random upgrade, and then something that begins with N. But my kid and I struggled with this for hours and could not come up with a word that would accurately describe the game. And now this is why my kid wants to disown me, because there was only one word that made sense to me to go after random upgrade that accurately describes these games. And that was the word battlers. Random upgrade battlers. When you think about it, in every single one of these games, and I could not find one in searching through all the stores and all the genres that didn't ultimately have a battle element to it. This is what they are. They're random, you get upgrades, and you do battle to ultimately win. But this now left us with a small problem, because now you would no longer say that you're going on a run in a rub game. You would just simply say that you rubbed one out. And it doesn't have to mean what you think it means. A long time ago, rubbing someone out had to do with gangsters doing a hit on them. So meanings change and adapt with the times. Now, rubbing one out means playing a random upgrade battler. And here's a little footage of me rubbing one out in Balatro with my favorite build known as the Flush 5. You can't always get it, you need just the right jokers, but when you make it works absolutely beautifully, and you end up with completely outrageous scores. As you can see here, I really like it when you get into the E's. But as of this video being posted, I probably don't have a child who loves me anymore, but I will still be posting a music video about this genre and this name. And it's as cheesy as you think it might be. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have an absolutely awesome day.